Does your rice often look like mashed potatoes? Or do you like the slightly burnt, crunchy style of rice instead? Well, if you want rice to turn on Betty White, right this way. What's going on, guys? We are going to make rice. And we have, just a few ingredients. We have water, we have the long grain rice, we have a little salt, pepper, and my homemade chicken base. There'll be a video at the end that you can click on and check out how to make your own chicken base. Super awesome. There's over 100,000 different kinds of rice in the world, literally. That's from On Food and Cooking, Harold McGee. I think I've had about 15 of those 100,000, so my rice marathon is coming to an end. There's different categories of rice, and really the different categories are long grain, medium grain, short grain, sticky rice. There's a couple more, but those are the main ones. In each one of those rice, there's a different starch content. The starch content says I need either more water or less water, and possibly more or less cooking time. There's different methods of cooking rice. We're just going to do the simmer method. I've got the Pyrex, so hopefully we don't explode and rice water and stuff goes all over. The first thing we have to do is, we start out with warm liquid, hot liquid. We have to season it. If you wait until the rice is cooked, then you have to season it. You have to move the rice around. Hot rice is very soft. That's when it gets mega mushy. So again, this is homemade, so it's not. I wouldn't put near this much chicken base if I purchased it at the store. As this is heating up, we're going to season. Make sure that's mixed up. There we go. Do not do that at home. Hey, don't forget, if you or anyone you know is thinking about going to culinary school or wants to bypass school altogether, I wrote a book, A Fork in the Road, The Guide to Culinary School Success, or How to Skip It Altogether. It's got how I made my way in the industry and how I've seen other people climb that ladder. Put a link in the description. Like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. See ya. All right, we're back. That was semi-hilarious, and the reason there's no glass in a professional kitchen. So we're going to... It's good. Some recipes will call for rinsing the rice. Some won't. If you're doing a rice pilaf, before the liquid goes in, you have some oil. You can do some onions, mirepoix, carrots, celery, onions. Kind of saute the rice. That coating of the rice grains with the fat says you don't have to rinse it off. And this one I didn't rinse. It's most likely going to be okay. I don't think it's going to explode. We can stir the rice until the lid goes on. We have to stir the rice. Gravity wants that rice to sink to the bottom, and with the heat coming from the bottom, it's going to want to form like a brick, a rice brick. So you want to stir. Once we see the simmer, then we have to stop stirring. There's another rule, there's no stirring rice as it's cooking unless it's risotto or something like that. I was so excited to have the glass, and you guys could see the rice, the simmering, the lid goes on, the temperature goes down, and then the slow, not evaporation, but the rice taking on the liquid, but that's a pipe dream, buddy. All right, we're getting, the simmer is happening. So the flame goes down, because once that boil / simmer happens, that same heat is going to keep on skyrocketing the temperature. And when the lid is on there, it's going to take a lot less heat from the bottom to keep that simmer up. We do not want to boil the rice. That's another rule. Simmer, yes. We don't want to poach the rice, but we want to make sure that it's not a full raging boil. When it boils, the outside of the rice gets done before the inside of the rice, and that vigorous movement kind of breaks the rice apart, and then that's when the mashed potatoes come through. So I'm still a little bit hot, right? A little bit too much of a, wrong way. A little bit too much of a boil. So this, if you can see it, it's like a super low heat. The pan is already hot, right? It's preheated. That liquid, of course, is hot. And the lid is on, so it really doesn't take much to maintain that temperature. So the rules, as this cooks, I've got some time. You want to make sure the ingredients are measured out properly. Standard long grain rice is going to say 2 to 1, 2 parts liquid to 1 part rice. So it's better to have a little bit more water than not quite enough, because if the rice is halfway done but there's no more liquid, that's when that crunchy, slightly burnt rice comes out. It's got to come to a boil, reduce it immediately to a simmer, put the lid on, and no stirring. Along the cooking, we want to stop it before it's done, right? Once the rice has absorbed all the liquid, then it's good to eat. If you have the heat on that full time, it takes around 20 minutes for most rice to be done. All right, we're at a full raging boil again. I don't know if you can see that super low flame. So what we want to do is stop the cooking when we see the craters on the moon. What is the craters on the moon? What's he talking about? That is when, right, the heat is coming from the bottom, the boils, right, the bubbling action comes from the bottom and goes up. As the rice hydrates, it's going to start to swell. And when it swells and there's less liquid, that boiling is still going to happen. It's going to leave little craters. That's when we need to remove it from the heat. If you have the electric burner and you just shut it off, that burner is still going to be hot for a little while. So take it off the heat, leave the lid on, and let it go. Tell Alexa or whoever, put a timer on for 5 more minutes, and then it's most likely going to be done. Once the rice is finished, right, we've done that 12 to 15 minutes on the simmer, shut it off or remove it from the heat, leave the lid on. It's going to continue, right, that carryover cooking. It's going to continue to cook. Once the rice is completely done, we want to fluff with a fork. The other thing is rice does not like to hold so well. When rice holds hot, it's going to keep on cooking, and that's when that mushiness starts to happen. We've got the first crater happening. So the craters are there. We're now going to shut the heat off, leave the lid on 5 more minutes. We'll be good. All right, so Mr. Rice is done. I'll plate a little bit up so you can see it. I will say, I usually, if I'm doing the boil method, which usually it's a pilaf method I do, I will rinse it. This one, the grains of rice are not overcooked. How you know if the grains of rice are overcooked? They'll split. So these, the grains are all intact, but it does have, the reason why we rinse it is it gets the excess starch off. So it's a little starchy, but the rice, as far as doneness, look pretty good. Shall we test it? Looks pretty warm. Yeah, looks good. So to recap, measure your ingredients properly. Make sure you measure it. And then let that liquid come to a simmer, right? The rice goes in. It can be stirred until that lid goes on, which is another rule. Make sure the lid is on as it cooks. Take the temperature down, make sure it stays at a simmer. We don't want to poach, right? But we don't want a raging boil. And then after 12 or 15 minutes, you'll see those craters come on. Shut it off, leave the lid on another 5 to 7 minutes or so, and then it'll be done. You want to fluff with a fork, and man, bada boom, bada bing, good stuff. See ya!